First, in your packet you have a piece I did for Pete and New Politics some time ago that is really the web video for dummies, or web video 101. It talks about equipment, it gives you the top 10 uses for web video. This is all stuff that increasingly is conventional wisdom. This was like forward thinking when I first wrote about it in 2004 or whatever, but you've been watching it every day in the primary election this year. So I won't get too much into the nuts and bolts until Q&A, with the exception of the economics of web video. Why this explosion of web video? Well, everybody knows about YouTube, but one piece you may not know about are the radical economic savings, the radical economics and the revolution, the cost revolution that's been happening in video production. How much does it cost to produce a video these days? Well, I went on, Pete maybe can help me out if the numbers are different, but I think you can get a cheap PC laptop these days, some places for $400, $450 with Windows. I mean, that's not even, with Windows, with Movie Maker, with video editing, Movie Maker for $400. So there's your big expense. If you want to record your own video, which you don't need to make a web video. In fact, most of them, the most famous political web video of all, the Hillary 1984 ad, had no original video whatsoever. But let's just assume that you're a candidate and you want to record your own video. Mini DV cameras, the cheapest version of what that gentleman has right there, although he has a very slick version, are now down to $150. I think the last time I gave this talk, or a version of this talk, I don't know, a year ago, they were still at $250. So they've come down $100 in a year. I look at all my equipment back at my office and I just shake my head in horror at the money I spent. And I got in when things were already cheap. You should get a tripod, $20. You should get a microphone. You can now get a cheap version of the lavalier mic that I am wearing for $20 at Radio Shack. Again, it used to be $180 from Sony. I'm pissed off that I so overpaid, because I actually used one today with a wireless, probably with the same unit, and it worked just fine. Just the economies of scale are such that it's come down to that. And then a YouTube account, $0. Grand total for your starter web video effort, $590. Now, if you already had your laptop, if you already had a camera, or you don't need a camera, it could obviously be even significantly less than that. It is dirt cheap, if not costless, to produce video. Radically different from 10 to 15 years ago when, is that an HDV or a standard def? Okay. You can now get these new small, high definition, as they're called, HDV cameras. The picture quality of that exceeded a camera that cost $10,000 10 or 15 years ago. So there's a little web video economics 101 to get us going. It's just amazing. All right, so let's talk a little bit, since a couple interesting things have happened just today or in the last few days, about where we have come in this presidential cycle. I'm going to just very quickly talk about some of the stuff at the presidential level, and then we can get into nuts and bolts and Q&A. The story so far since this presidential election started, I was originally thinking we can go back 18 months or whatever it is to Macaca, which arguably is the birth of modern web video. Though I think, Pete, I was looking, I think probably as far as candidates, Al Gore sent the first video webmail, although come to think of it, there were some in '98 as well. So arguably we're 10 years into this, but you could also make the case that as a serious medium that makes a difference, we're only 18 months into it. The story so far of this, this cycle is the first web video cycle. It's interesting. Daniel Bennett may have been at the Politics Online conference in 2000. Everybody in 2000 was saying, when are we going to have, when's going to be the 1960 of the internet? 60, everybody thinks that TV elected Kennedy. I think street money in West Virginia probably had more to do with it than the televised debates. But in any case, everybody wondered when was the web going to do it. Well, clearly this is the cycle. '06 with the congressionals, and this cycle, web videos come into its own. All the announcements, certainly on the Democratic side, Hillary, Obama, Edwards, and the rest came online. In fact, you can make the case that if Hillary is on the verge of losing this thing because she's been caught flat-footed every turn, the first sign of flat-footedness was when Barack Obama went on with a web video, and she was thrown off her game and had to rush to get her own up a few weeks later. Shortly thereafter, I think in March of '07, we had the Hillary 1984 video. Oh, really? February. Okay, so only a month after he, right around the time he officially announced. And flash forward now, we all know the Rev Wright videos did not start on the web, although Trinity, his church, did have some videos online, but not the ones Brian Ross at ABC got. But clearly they went viral. Clearly web video contributed to that. Bittergate also first reported before we actually heard the scratchy sounds. I think you can make a case that, you know, hearing the audio didn't have a big impact, but nonetheless noted. And then something that a lot of some folks may, I don't know if folks are familiar with or not, but I think a sign of how far we've come is something, is the Cantor snippet. The day of the Indiana primary was the day of the primary, right? Where somebody, does everybody know about the Mickey Cantor? Somebody posted on YouTube a clip from the War Room where Mickey Cantor comes up to Carville and Stephanopoulos and says, "Oh my God, we're even winning in Indiana. I mean, these people, blah, 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 are shit, blah, blah, blah." And somebody dubbed in and put in subtitles to suggest that he was slandering white middle class, working class voters in Indiana with a phrase not to be repeated here, but it used the N-word, so it would have managed to offend everybody had it been true. Turns out it was a hoax, and it was discredited within like an hour or an hour and a half of it being on the web, which also was a seminal moment that here you had something that that was going viral. I mean, it was on Huffington Post. And the speed with which the Obama folks distanced themselves, the Clinton folks distanced themselves, it was analyzed, the DVD was analyzed by Politico. The speed with which that web video was discredited was an impressive moment in of itself. And gets us to where we are today. Back at the DNC winter meeting in '07, Barack Obama said, "Running for president sometimes feels like a combination of Survivor and American Idol." I would hasten to add he forgot and Big Brother. You're being watched 24/7. I think by now, after Bittergate, he has learned that lesson. That's one of the pieces of web video politics. You know, it amplify on the one hand, it can amplify the good from the candidate's perspective. Take Obama. Interviews he gave pre-war where he nailed what was going to happen in Iraq. I mean, we've all heard about those interviews, and I mean, they're just striking to watch. But then, obviously, the amplification of the gaffe is we've seen the flip side as far as that goes. So where do we go from here on the presidential? Swift voting 2.0. I'll show you in a moment. The swift voting has begun, ladies and gentlemen, and it's begun through web video. We're already starting to see some nasty stuff against Obama, and it's only going to get nastier. But there's an interesting upside, I think, for candidates to this early nastiness, and that is arguably you can make the case that there's going to be an inoculation effect, that the more the really nasty stuff gets out early, the more I think candidates can push back, say it's old news, so on and so forth. So it's going to be interesting. In fact, I was joking with a friend that, you know, if I were David Axelrod, I'd give some kids some money to run off, set up a 527, do nothing but Reverend Wright attack ads from here on out to just continually inoculate him so that people are sick of hearing that story. It'll be interesting. Maybe there will be some further tape that is shocking and so forth, but I think there will be a little bit of an inoculation factor. And people, again, are more sophisticated, as evidenced by the Mickey Cantor video. But October surprises, you know, what will we see? Will bin Laden, one of the original developers is the wrong word, but you know, Al-Qaeda was one of the first successful users of web video. And we all know how he likes to pop up in video. It's sad but true. I mean, they understood that medium, and so will they pop up. Other things to look for, how will the convention just use web video? Are they going to ask people who can't be there physically to get involved through video? And the debates. The Commission on Presidential Debates has announced that there will be an internet component to the debates, including, they were a little ambiguous, but in talking to some of them, it's clear that will include video. That does not necessarily, there's a little back and forth because YouTube said, oh, well, if you're doing video, surely that means us. And they're saying, not so fast. So there'll be some interesting tussling there. I think that's it. Let me show you how some of this swift voting has begun. Here is, this is a new one from the RNC that's gone up in the last, I think last day, right?
Barack Obama is running to be president, commander-in-chief, the chief executive of our government. He speaks eloquently about change and his vision for the country. Wouldn't it be fair to ask him a few questions? On the issues, can we ask Barack Obama why, as an Illinois state senator, he voted present over 130 times instead of yes or no? On difficult issues like abortion, crime, and guns. On fiscal responsibility, can we ask Barack Obama how he intends to pay for over $660 billion in new spending proposals, and whether he can do it without raising taxes on families and small businesses? On leadership, can we ask Barack Obama why he voted against funding for our troops after promising not to use them as pawns in a war funding debate? On values, can we ask Barack Obama why he told donors in San Francisco that the economy has driven small-town voters to cling to guns and religion? And on experience, can we ask ourselves if 3 years in the U.S. Senate prepares Barack Obama to be our next commander-in-chief?
Yes, we can!
Barack Obama. Soaring rhetoric, questions to answer.